Now what if this didn't happen? Welcome everyone to another What If Sonic episode. Since the first 3 parts of this What If haven't aged well in quality in my opinion, I figured why not remaster it? So let's re-explore the idea of what if Sonic and Tails never met. For now. Maybe Sonic runs through a different area. Perhaps Tails sees him, but never catches up. Or maybe something else entirely. Either way, the two don't meet during the events of Sonic 2. Tails simply continues to get bullied while Eggman invades West Side Island. Sonic can confidently get through zone to zone without Tails. It may be trickier, but Sonic manages. Despite that, he gets to Metropolis Zone with the emeralds on hand. But as in canon, Eggman steals them and launches the Death Egg, with the Wing Fortress not too far behind. Sonic quickly runs back to Emerald Hill to get his biplane, the Tornado. Yes, that's his plane, not Tails'. He flies into the sky, avoiding Badnik battalions, and makes it to the Wing Fortress. Before it can land, the plane is shot down, and he jumps out to land on the flying ship as the plane crashes onto the ground below. With no time to waste, Sonic makes it to Eggman and beats the boss. Eggman, within the confusion, gets onto his escape ship and flies away, with Sonic just barely missing the ship. With Sonic out of options, he thinks fast and goes to the cockpit of the Wing Fortress in an attempt to fly towards the atmosphere. The ship starts to crumble under the pressure, but Sonic keeps pushing. The ship is just about to exit the atmosphere, and Sonic makes a running jump towards Eggman's ship. He grabs onto it, and they dock into the Death Egg. Things realign for a bit, with Sonic taking down Silver Sonic and the Death Egg robot, and escaping the exploding base as Super Sonic, while the ship crashes onto a floating island, bringing it to sea level. Sonic 3 has begun. No, not that one. After a bit, Sonic storms onto the island as Super Sonic before getting hit by Knuckles. He steals the emeralds and Sonic ventures on through most zones as normal. Once reaching Marble Garden and facing Eggman, Sonic falls into the depths of the island, since Tails was never there to pick him up and face Eggman. He lives, but is caught in a complex cave system. He eventually exits through these caverns into the Mountains of Ice Cap Zone, and things realign. Sonic would then face the Big Arms mech and the Death Egg fails its launch, falling into Lava Reef. Sonic makes it there and faces Knuckles in a showdown. Even without Tails, he comes out on top, and Eggman uses this opportunity to steal a Master Emerald. Sonic and Knuckles leave to Sky Sanctuary, and Sonic makes it on board the Death Egg, destroying Eggman's mechs as he makes a run for it with the Master Emerald. Sonic would then give chase, turning into Hyper Sonic. It's tough, but Sonic wins and successfully gets the Master Emerald back and returns it to Knuckles. The two part ways on good terms, and Sonic flies off as Super Sonic into the sunset. I guess it's just a Sonic and Knuckles adaptation, huh? Anyways, things go on. Sonic continues his adventures, stopping Dr. Eggman and pursuing adventure. Some games stay the same, while others are a bit different, but Sonic always comes out on top. He teams up with Knuckles again a few times, and due to not having a buddy around, he eventually meets back up with Mighty and Ray from years ago. The three travel the world, doing good and seeking adventure. Hell, Sonic even gets to join the events of Knuckles Chaotix. And while Eggman continues his schemes, Sonic and his friends are always there to stop him. But things aren't all great. While Sonic's adventures continue with his friends, a two-tailed fox continues to live on West Side Island, bullied every day for his looks and inventions. And that's where we'll be leaving things for right now. With the stars never aligning, Sonic and Tails end up never meeting. Or should I say, Miles. As Sonic was on his adventures, we cut to Miles, alone without meeting Sonic. He'd stay on West Side Island in his village, but continued to get bullied every day, months or even years with this ruthless cycle. It took a toll on him. The once cheerful fox was now always upset. One day, he'd be doing a run around West Side Island to get away from it all. But it didn't matter where he went. People always treated him differently. He'd instead go to unoccupied areas to rest. During this, he would settle upon the abandoned Metropolis Zone. It looked creepy, but he went in anyways. There, he saw all the robots and inactive machines, and it left him in awe. Even after all this, he kept his passion for science and robotics. He would take these old, battered machines back to his home and use parts to tinker with them. It amazed him.
Wow! A genius must have made these!
He saw a logo. It was faded, but still readable.
Robotnik. Sounds familiar.
He continued to grab parts and machines, and he even stumbled upon old Eggmobile mechs. These kept him happy and optimistic as he would tinker all day. Making robots and experimenting with all this stuff made him realize how much of a genius he truly was. He wanted to show this to the world, and maybe he would be accepted. Time would fly as he began to understand this tech and truly master it. There's one thing he'd spend the most time on though, a Caterkiller Badnik. It was fully functional with AI that he had tailored, but it lacked a power source. No animals meant no power. So he spent time gathering tech from the abandoned egg bases. He found some schematics for some alternate power sources. Little planet flowers were listed, but Miles had no idea what those were. There was another thing though, a work-in-progress super battery. It was incomplete and seemingly scrapped. Miles spent a great amount of time until he finally made it. He installed the battery into the Scrapnik as it turned on. Miles was amazed and felt fulfilled. He grew attached to this robot, and they'd work together on restoring the various Badniks he found. For the first time in his life, he had a friend. It couldn't speak, or was even that intelligent, but he loved it. However, this wouldn't last. Miles tried showing off his creation to the people of his village, and surprisingly, some people were impressed. He finally felt kind of happy. He went back to his home to make more creations to show off. Unfortunately, his various bullies caught wind of this, and decided to pay him another visit. Miles sat in his home tinkering with his creations, with the help of his Caterkiller, but then the door was knocked down. The bullies rushed into his home and grabbed Miles as they ran and smashed up his various projects.
No! Stop! Please!
Miles tried to fight back, but as he struggled, one of the bullies grabbed him back, causing a huge scratch on his eye. Miles pleaded and pleaded, but they laughed. They called him terrible and freakish insults and made him feel inhumane. His prized Caterkiller slugged away from them, but it was noticed. The bullies shouted to smash it as one of them went up to it, preparing to destroy the Scrapnik. Miles saw and screamed,
Please! You could do anything to me! Just spare it!
His pleas went on deaf ears as one of the bullies grabbed a bat and smashed the Caterkiller. Miles screamed and cried, trying to fight back, but nothing worked. After this final act, the bullies had enough and decided to leave, but not before hitting the fox in the head with a bat, knocking him out unconscious. Miles finally woke up a few hours later, wondering if it all was just a nightmare. He would find out as he awoke to the horrors of everything he loved destroyed. Miles limped over to the broken Caterkiller, with nothing left but a soulless husk of what it once was. Not even the AI could be salvaged. Something in Miles snapped, as he could do nothing but mourn and scream. His morals had broke, and his mind was consumed with pain. He stood up, clenching his fist, and wouldn't be seen for days. Suddenly, on a nice day in Emerald Hill, the villagers were up to their usual, living their lives. But something was brewing. Miles had finished something within his house, and smiled wickedly. An explosion came from his house, with old but functional Badniks zooming out of it. They were rusty and formed from various parts, but they were just as deadly. Miles arose with an old Eggmobile with wheels and a cannon. Miles laughed maniacally as his Scrapnik stormed the village, destroying everything. Cannon shots fired upon the townspeople as they tried to fight back, but it was useless. The screams of many and the laughing of one were all that was heard that day. By nightfall, this village was nothing more than an ashy ruin, charred and destroyed. That night, Miles left Westside Island with his Scrapniks, using the Eggmobile as a boat. He had never felt so satisfied in his life. The world would finally recognize him for his greatness. As Miles ventured on, he loaded his Scrapniks towards many people, and the ones who weren't impressed were dealt with. Miles felt unsatisfied though, as all he got was praise but nothing more. The world never changed for him. He couldn't worry about that though, as his aimless wandering left him without resources. His Scrapniks couldn't be maintained for much longer. He needed to find parts and resources. Later on, Miles was wandering the jungles of Somerka. Yes, I'm pulling from the comics. And he found something peculiar. A huge base, much in the style of the base he found back home long ago. It was adorned with a similar logo. Now, the words Eggman were plastered all over it. Miles knew he could find the resources here, and attempted to get into the base. It was fortified, so he needed to use his resources. Miles yelled for his Scrapniks to storm the entrances as he used the fighting to search for a storage unit. He found one and began salvaging stuff. This wouldn't go unnoticed though, Egg Legion troopers and Commander mechs were trying to fight back, but there was chaos and confusion. An officer reported an emergency to the highest command in the area, the Egg Boss of Sumerka, Thunderbolt the Chinchilla.
What? Rusty old badniks attacking our own forces? Send in more troops! We can't let Lord Eggman see this!
Ma'am, we've been trying our hardest, but our badnik battalions are confused, and our troops don't know which badniks are ours or the enemy's.
There has to be some pest behind this. Any information?
We found a fox running with these badniks, and he's currently storage building SH2. He's firing upon our squadrons. Thunderbolt shivers in fear.
I have nothing to deploy! This pest has us covered!
She begrudgingly calls someone with fear in her eyes.
Lord Eggman, it's an emergency! We're being attacked heavily by an army of rogue badniks!
Calm down! I'll send an elite mech to assist you. You mentioned these were rogue badniks, right?
Yes, Lord Eggman. The leader is taking hold in our storage unit.
In that case, I want them alive. Got it?
Yes, Lord Eggman. I won't fail you.
You better not. The call would end as Thunderbolt would cuff her fist with an angry expression.
This pest thinks he can just do this to Lord Eggman. We'll show him who's boss.
As Miles would hold his position, trying to salvage stuff while holding off the attacking forces, he'd be impressed by it all. It was truly a sight to see. His gawking would be interrupted, though, by the sound of a door smashing open with many of his scrapniks flying everywhere. A large mech would approach him as he'd freeze with fear. It was a prototype of what would become E-100-0. The mech would launch its hands at Miles. He would barely avoid them, though, and while impressed with his creation, he wasn't going down.
Come on, I can take you!
Miles would taunt as he charged his badniks at the mech. They wouldn't phase this mechanic golem, though, and Miles would get backed into a corner. Badniks, troopers, and this mech would surround him as he tried tail-spinning the robot. It would do some damage, but right after, Miles got grabbed by the E-Series prototype as a short figure walked up to him, and then it'd fade to black. Miles finally woke up in a room akin to a prison cell. An egg-like figure walked in with a serious expression. So you're the one behind the siege in my Sumerka base. By all accounts, I should be rid of a pest like you, but you've intrigued me. Miles would see this and fall to the floor, figuring this had to be the one in charge. He looked just like the logo after all.
I'm so sorry. I was impressed by your robots and I salvaged the ones you had left behind. I just need some parts to maintain them, but I got carried away.
These models are rather vintage. Where did you come from?
West Side Island?
I invaded that place a long while ago. You and your populace only live in ignorance of me because of a blue hedgehog who stopped my invasion.
The people of West Side Island didn't deserve to be saved. I used your robots to lay waste against them.
Eggman pondered for a bit before a menacing grin appeared across his face. Listen, kid. You've got a sharp mind. No average person can do the things you did with my creations. So I have a proposition for you. Join my Eggman Empire as a badnik production overseer. You'll be provided with everything you need, and you can use your mind for great things. Plus, I think our motives align. Miles thought for a moment, but the prospect of being loved and not seen as a freak, but rather a genius, clicked for him. He'd finally be happy.
You'll allow me despite my freakiness?
Miles said, gesturing to his two tails. Your appearance means nothing so long as you perform well.
Alright then, deal.
The two shake hands as destiny has now led Miles' fate down a darker path. You and I are going to do wonderful things together. And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now. Miles agreed to join the Eggman Empire, and as standard for anyone joining, they are to have robotic enhancements added to them. While providing great support, they are not without a catch. These robotics have paralyzing bombs planted within them that Dr. Eggman can activate at any time. These keep his subordinates in line and ensure their lifetime servitude. Miles had gotten both of his arms and his scarred eye replaced with robotic replacements. He felt great, and as soon as he could, he got to work, overseeing local badnik production. His genius wouldn't keep him there long though, as he would move up in the ranks fast. His sharp mind would grant him rank after rank, and over time, he would make it to the position of Eggman's right-hand scientist. Despite Eggman's evil alignment, he showed Miles much support, as he was truly dedicated to the Empire. At this point, he was on par with the other egg bosses Eggman had in terms of power, much to their distaste, who saw him as just a freaky bootlicker or someone not worth their time. Thunderbolt especially, who was very infatuated with Eggman and loathed the attention Miles got. On the other hand, Miles had gained much information on the enemies of the Empire, including Sonic the Hedgehog, as he was the one who saved the people on West Side Island from Eggman, the people who made Miles who he was now. Exposition aside, a rather important day happened, as he accompanied Eggman to Samarkand and was ordered to inspect the capital base, while he took care of some research. A sleek ship landed in the docking bay of the Egg Base. Badniks alike had arrived to welcome Miles to the docking bay. The Egg Boss of Samarkand was immediately informed, with it being Thunderbolt the Chinchilla.
What's with all the chit-chat? I'm busy waiting for the arrival of Lord Eggman.
Ma'am, a ship has arrived. It's a visitor for you.
What? But he wasn't supposed to arrive for another day! Hurry! Get everything extra perfect!
Ma'am, we literally clean this base every day.
Well, do it again!
She cuts off the intercom and hurries to the docking bay.
My dearest Lord Eggman, it's an honor to have you...
She looks up to see Miles standing firmly in front of her.
What are you doing here? Nothing much. Just here for inspection. I'm sorry, but I was told our dear Lord Eggman would visit, not some mutant freak.
Miles would twitch a bit hearing her insults.
Well, I come here in his place, under direct orders from him. He's busy doing some research on the other side of the continent, but if you insist on me leaving, you would be ignoring direct orders from the doctor. It would be an honor for you to inspect for him. Glad we can agree.
The two did not get along at all, and whilst he had deep respect for Eggman and enjoyed getting on the nerves of the ones he disliked, Miles found all this inspection rather tedious. He would have rather made 100 Badnik designs than do this.
Well, you can see the base is in peak condition. I'm sure you have more pressing matters. Yes, you're right. All of this is boring anyways. Besides, maybe you should put more effort into maintaining territory rather than cleaning the walls every hour.
Thunderbolt raged at Miles over this comment.
How can someone like you even be at his side like this? I serve our lord without question, while you just do things however you see fit. I worked for my position though, unlike you, who just licked his boot into becoming an egg boss. You never pulled off the things I did, and I recall as I, a lone child with rusty badniks that caused you a massive headache all that time ago. You don't deserve the praise, you two-tailed freak!
From these comments, Miles had flashbacks to the bullying he endured so much within his hometown, as his eyes lay cold and dead before sharpening, almost like a snake's eye.
You know, Thunderbolt, it was a shame your limb chip malfunctioned during my visit, causing an explosion that paralyzed you.
Thunderbolt shivered as she questioned.
What do you mean?
Miles pulled out a remote, giving an almost devilish smile. No remorse in his eyes. He gestured to her limbs, and things clicked.
How? Only Lord Eggman should have access to the detonation codes! Besides, with the road you're going down, you're bound to get detonated too!
Miles smirked before taking a rather open stance.
With my IQ and understanding of Eggman tech, I was able to access the detonation codes and remove my bombs a long time ago. You're bluffing! Am I?
Thunderbolt broke into fear and started running away as Miles pressed down onto the button, as the paralyzing chip activated, leaving her in a shuddered state. Miles turned around to the onlooking soldiers with sternness.
Nobody's to report what you saw to Robotnik.
Got it? He dangled the remote in front of the soldiers as they all nodded. Rumors would spread among the Egg Legion as the rest of the Egg Bosses silently feared Miles, and laid off their public disdain for him. Miles would soon meet up with Eggman in Final Egg.
What's up with the call, Doctor? I should get going. I have much work to do on Silver Sonic Mark II.
That can wait until after our talk. I have a genius plan that a sharp mind like you could truly benefit me with.
Ancient murals appeared on the screens, as Miles looked in awe.
What is that?
Chaos! The god of destruction! An ancient monster fueled by the power of the Chaos Emeralds. With its power, I can conquer the world in my name. It resides in the Master Emerald, which is what I'll need to take care of soon.
So why do you need me for this?
I'm going to need some more capable mechs to take care of finding the emeralds. So I'll be putting you in charge of my E-Series line of robots. They will find the Chaos Emeralds for me, and as well as my crew on the Egg Carrier.
But you designed the E-Series blueprint. I couldn't possibly compare. And Egg Carrier?
Eggman motions Miles to follow him to a dark room where it suddenly lights up to reveal a gigantic ship inside the hangar.
Behold! The reason this base was built. To house my latest creation. Much sturdier than any wing fortress or flying battery.
But why do you need me? I simply assist your genius.
For my plans to accelerate, I need your sharp mind to assist me. You tower over the rest of my subordinates, my friend. Now let's get to work.
Miles grins with excitement.
Of course, Doctor.
Miles will get quick to work on these mechs, as they differ from our canonical E-Series mechs. Eggman had set the base designs for them, but the rest was up to Miles. They were all more uniform, with one claw hand and one precise blaster. They also lacked a pinch of free will. Nothing could overwrite their programming. Miles presented these mechs to the Doctor, and he was impressed. As mentioned earlier, Silver Sonic Mark II was finished to keep the impending involvement of Team Sonic occupied. Miles had finished Silver Sonic Mark II, and they both went up to Station Square, where the heroes were currently residing. And that's where we're leaving things for right now. With Sonic and Tails never meeting, Miles has now become something far worse than we could have imagined. What could possibly happen to Sonic and his friends now that Miles is working alongside Eggman? Find out next time on What If Sonic. At the time of this video, parts 4 through 6 are up, so make sure to watch those to catch up. And make sure to like and subscribe for more if you want to. And as always, thanks for watching.